Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another malicious compliance Reddit video. In our first story, a traveler gets exactly what he asks for. Let's jump right in. This happened when I, a 20-year-old female at the time, was a junior in college. Here's some context. I had taken a long weekend trip to Florida with a friend of mine to visit her brother and go to the Universal Studios Fright Night Halloween event, which was awesome, by the way. We had an amazing trip and we were on the plane about to head home. This was only my second ever time with air travel. We didn't have much when I was growing up, so vacations were not a regular thing, and the ones we took were low-key. So there I was, just excited to be flying in my coach seat, waiting to take off, and we kept waiting. It became clear that there was a problem with the plane when the flight attendants started calling various passengers to exit to be placed on different flights so they'd make their necessary connections. Eventually, after around 40 minutes, it was just my friend and I plus around 6 other people, and then it was our turn to leave the plane. We were sort of near the end of the group, tromping back out into the waiting area. One couple, probably in their mid-50s, had stormed up ahead of us, and by the time my friend and I emerged from the gate entrance, the rude husband was already berating the pair of attendants, who, to their credit, remained poised and calm. They tried to reassure him, but he was talking over them. "This is unacceptable. You better get me the same seats we had on that flight." He had the first row in coach, the one with no seats in front of it and therefore with extra legroom. By then, the rest of us had gathered around and the attendants began addressing the whole group, offering reassurances, filling us in that there was a critical problem with the plane, which made me very glad for the change despite the inconvenience. The rude husband was going off through all of this, and when the attendants left to make arrangements for us all, he and his wife sat there and he continued his commentary to his poor wife. "Unacceptable. How dare they? Better have the same seats," and so on. And it was in our best interest to get put on new flights. I mean, something was wrong with the plane. Did that guy want them to fly it anyway? Sheesh. They were doing their jobs by being safe. Shortly afterwards, the attendants returned and the man practically rushed them. "I demand you make this right." The attendant smiled and said, "You guys are all set, sir," and she smiled at him specifically. "I'm very happy to tell you that we have a flight leaving shortly, and we were able to give you and your wife the exact same seats as you had booked on the previous flight." The rude husband said, "I should hope so. That's the least you can do," and he huffily returns to his seat. Meanwhile, the rest of us are just waiting. The attendant then turns to us and she says, "And I'm happy to let everyone else know that you'll all be flying first class with us today." The rude husband was furious and immediately jumped up to demand why they weren't flying first class, while the rest of us just sat there in a state of stunned glee. The attendant just informed the man that she'd given him his request and didn't stick around for more abuse. The wait wasn't long, and soon my friend and I were boarded into that unicorn fabled place that is first class. As a poor air travel newbie, it was like some fantasy land. Huge seats, real hot washcloths, and though we were underage and couldn't partake in the free cocktail, we did get to choose from a basket of distinctive Pepperidge Farm cookies. And the food! We got a whole meal which was truly delicious, with real crystal salt and pepper shakers at each place setting and actual metal cutlery. Meanwhile, rude husband is irate. My friend and I were in the last row of first class, which only had around 8 seats, and we could hear him heaping abuse on the coach attendants, going off on how those kids don't deserve first class, and how they should have gotten them. They're older. They should be respected, not some kids. Someone else who was in first, not from our original plane, caught on and was quite tickled with the man's ire. Then the best part of all happened. The flight attendant in our section overheard rude husband's tirade with language specifically directed at my friend and me. "Who do those kids think they are?" as unworthy of the honor he should have been granted. The attendant shook his head and addressed me and my friend. I'm sorry about that. Let me take care of this for you. And he closed the curtain to the coach cabin. Rude husband realized what was happening, which makes it even better. I got one last look at his red, irate face before he was gone forever. It was glorious. Story number 2. Take 2 paid days off to think about why you want to continue working here. Many years ago, I got a job working in a retail store. This store and 2 others were owned by a young couple and another young woman. I worked there happily for about a year and became very good at my job, which included reminding the owners when stock needed replacing, merchandising, etc. At one point, we lost a few staff in rapid succession, leaving myself and my friend as the only long-term staff. Then my friend was offered a managerial position with one of our competitors, so she left as well. This left me to train all the new staff, run the floor, deal with vendors, place orders, do pricing, basically manage the store. So I approached the owners about being named the new manager, since I was already doing the job just without the pay or the title for several months. They said that sounds great, but we'd like you to do a management course before we make it official. But before you do that, can you just wait a couple more months until all the new staff have been trained? I naively agreed to do this, thinking long-term it would be to my benefit. Now, during the waiting time, one of the new staff got very chummy with the owners. She had never worked retail before, wasn't particularly good at the job, but was super friendly to them. Next thing I know, they have appointed her the new manager. Needless to say, I didn't take this news particularly well, especially considering she was still constantly asking me how to do things. Let's just say my attitude towards work changed drastically. I no longer gave a crap. Stock was getting low, not my job. Next week's roster hadn't been done, not my job. I still performed all the tasks I was paid to do, and all my customers loved me, but I stopped doing any extra work. So then I get dragged into the owner's office for a meeting. We have noticed that your attitude has changed. You aren't going above and beyond, blah blah. So we would like to give you the next 2 days off to think about why you want to continue to work here, and we would like it in writing. Honestly, I was angry. Had been for a while, this was the final straw. But I held my tongue because flip giving them the satisfaction that they got to me. Before I had even walked out, I knew I was going to be resigning. I went home, talked to my husband, and he agreed I should just quit. So I took my 2 paid days off to spend time with my family and get a new job. When I went back into work, I was greeted with smiles and they eagerly took the piece of paper I handed them. The look on their faces dropped to shock when they realized what they were reading was my resignation and not an account of how much I loved working there and all the reasons I wanted to stay. I worked my 2 weeks' notice and happily left to greener pastures at my new job. Less than a year later, their store closed down, so I guess their choice of manager didn't go so well. This is John from /Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, subscribe and click on that notifications bell. We would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.